Okay, so a guy in the Bible gets swallowed by a giant fish because he tried to run away to this place. Most people know that story. Almost nobody knows the place he ran to might actually be real. Might be sitting in modern-day Spain or maybe Sardinia, and might have left behind an actual inscribed stone with its name carved into it 2,800 years ago. Except even that stone is a genuine, ongoing academic argument. This is Tarshish, the place Solomon's ships sailed to for silver, the place Jonah fled toward instead of obeying God, and honestly, one of the weirdest unsolved location mysteries in the entire Bible. Stick around, because by the end, you'll know why scientists are now using actual chemical analysis of ancient silver to try to crack this thing open. Let's go find Tarshish. So Tarshish first shows up in Genesis chapter 10 verse 4, and here's the verse exactly as written. And the sons of Javan, Elisha and Tarshish, Kittim and Dodanim. That's it, 4 names, no description. Javan is generally understood by biblical scholars to represent the ancient Greeks or the broader Ionian world. So right from the very first mention, Tarshish gets grouped with Mediterranean seafaring peoples, not Middle Eastern desert kingdoms like Ophir's genealogical neighbors. Then in 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 22, the same chapter that mentions Ophir gold, we get this. The king had at sea a navy of Tarshish. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. Now here's something worth pausing on. Some scholars actually read this verse as describing ships built in the Tarshish style, or classified as a certain type of long-distance cargo vessel, rather than ships literally sailing to a place called Tarshish every voyage. That's a real textual ambiguity worth knowing about. Now here's the story most of you actually know. Jonah chapter 1 verse 3, word for word, from the King James Version. But Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord, and went down to Joppa, and he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof, and went down into it, to go with them unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. I checked that exact wording against the ESV and the ASV too, and all 3 translations agree almost word for word. God tells Jonah to go preach in Nineveh. Jonah does the opposite, booking passage in the exact opposite direction. And that detail is a genuinely useful clue for historians, because Nineveh sat to the northeast of Israel, in modern-day Iraq. If Tarshish is the furthest, most opposite destination from Nineveh that a guy at the port of Joppa could book a ship toward, that pushes the location west, likely far across the Mediterranean Sea, not toward Asia or Africa at all. Isaiah chapter 23 opens with this line, "The burden of Tyre. Howl, ye ships of Tarshish, for it is laid waste, so that there is no house, no entering in." That's a prophecy of doom against Tyre, and Tarshish's ships get mentioned right in the opening verse, treated as Tyre's long-distance trading fleet. Then Ezekiel 27 verse 12 gets even more specific. Tarshish was thy merchant by reason of the multitude of all kind of riches, with silver, iron, tin, and lead, they traded in thy fairs. Word for word, that's the actual scripture. Ezekiel is literally listing Tarshish's export goods like a trade ledger. And here's a genuinely fun historical detail I found digging through old biblical commentary. An 18th century scholar named John Gill wrote extensively about this verse, and he specifically stated Tarshish seems most likely to intend Tartessus in Spain, a place not far from that where Cadiz now stands. He also noted that ancient Spain, according to the Roman writer Pliny, was rich in silver, iron, brass, and gold, but not really known for tin. So Gill theorized the tin might have come from an even longer Phoenician trade route stretching to Cornwall, in what's now England. Quick gut check, same as last episode. Drop a comment. Based on what you just heard, where do you think Tarshish actually was? Spain, Sardinia, or somewhere in modern Turkey? Guess now, before I show you the evidence, including a genuinely disputed ancient inscription. Theory 1, and traditionally the most cited. Tarshish was Tartessos, a real Bronze and Iron Age culture that existed in what's now southern Spain, near the mouth of the Guadalquivir River, close to modern Huelva. Tartessos was famous in the ancient world for one thing specifically: silver, and lots of it. That lines up well with the biblical description, since Ezekiel specifically calls out silver as a Tarshish export. And this is where it gets genuinely exciting. A real scientific study, published through the Biblical Archaeology Society in 2019, analyzed the actual chemical composition of ancient chopped-up silver hoards, called hacksilber, found in Israel. The isotope analysis pointed toward both Spain and Sardinia as plausible silver sources feeding into ancient Israelite trade during Solomon's era. Now here's the part I need to slow down on, because I want to get this exactly right. There's a real Phoenician inscription found at Nora, on the southern coast of Sardinia, discovered in 1773, dated to roughly the late 9th or early 8th century BC. It genuinely contains the word Tarshish. That part is well documented. But here's the twist. Scholar Frank Moore Cross's translation suggests this particular Tarshish might refer to a mining or refinery town located on Sardinia itself, not distant Spain. Other translators, including Peckham and Kramalkov, read the inscription differently enough that there's real scholarly disagreement on what it's even describing. So think about what that actually means for our mystery. The one physical, non-biblical artifact that literally has the word Tarshish carved into it might be evidence for Sardinia, not Spain, which is the opposite of how it's usually presented online. This is exactly the kind of detail that gets flattened into an oversimplified fact in most videos on this topic, and it's why I wanted to slow down and get it right here. Theory 2 is simpler. Some historians point at the name similarity and argue Tarshish was Tarsus, a real ancient city in modern-day southern Turkey, in the region called Cilicia, later famous as the hometown of the Apostle Paul. Bible Hub's own commentary on Jonah presents exactly this split, listing Tarsus in Cilicia and Tartessus in Spain as the two classic competing identifications scholars have debated for generations. That's a genuinely old academic disagreement, not a new one. The problem with the Tarsus theory is that Tarsus isn't especially known historically for silver, tin, or lead exports, the specific goods the Bible actually associates with Tarshish. That mismatch is a big part of why most modern scholars still lean toward the Iberian or Sardinian identification instead, even with the Nora stone's ambiguity. Theory 3, and this one overlaps heavily with the Nora stone evidence, points toward Sardinia itself, or the broader Western Mediterranean Phoenician trade network centered around Carthage. Given how deeply Phoenician traders were embedded in that whole region, and how the Nora stone's most cited translation might describe a Sardinian settlement, this theory has more physical backing than people usually realize. Spain has genuinely leaned into the Tartessos as Tarshish identification as part of its own ancient heritage story, with museums, archaeological sites, and tourism material around Huelva referencing the connection. It's a real point of national historical pride, similar to how Zimbabwe and the Philippines have their own Ophir-adjacent legends we covered last episode. But pride and evidence aren't always the same thing, and I want you leaving this video knowing the difference. So where does that leave us? Similar to Ophir, honestly, the Tartessos in Spain theory remains the most commonly cited by mainstream historians, mainly because of the strong silver trade match and the westward geography implied by the Jonah story. The 2019 hacksilber chemistry study genuinely supports Spain as one real source. But the single physical artifact that actually says Tarshish out loud might point somewhere else entirely, Sardinia, and serious scholars disagree on how to read that stone even today. And here's a nice full circle moment for anyone who watched last episode. Tarshish and Ophir show up together, repeatedly, in the same voyages, the same chapters, even the same verse in 1 Kings 10. Two of the Bible's biggest unsolved location mysteries, running on parallel trade cycles, both connected to the same Phoenician-partnered fleet out of the same royal alliance between Solomon and Hiram. Quick related myth bust while we're on the topic of overreaching legends. Some old European explorers, and later a German adventurer named Karl Peters, tried to claim that Great Zimbabwe's stone ruins in southern Africa were actually Ophir, or somehow connected to this whole biblical gold network. Multiple independent institutions, including UNESCO and the Metropolitan Museum, have confirmed construction there ran from the 11th to the 15th century AD, hundreds of years after Solomon. It's a real, important African kingdom. It's just not part of this story. So after Genesis, 1 Kings, Jonah's own escape route, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and 18th century commentators' Cornwall theory, a genuinely contested Sardinian stone with at least 4 competing scholarly translations, and a real 2019 chemistry study, where do we actually land? Most historians today still lean towards southern Spain and the Tartessos culture as the best overall fit, mainly on the strength of the silver trade chemistry match and the westward geography implied by Jonah's escape route. But Sardinia has a genuine physical inscribed claim of its own that can't just be dismissed. Just like Ophir, nobody gets to declare this case fully closed, and honestly, the actual inscribed evidence complicates the popular answer more than it confirms it. One more legacy beat before we close, connecting back to episode 1. In 1568, Spanish explorer Álvaro de Mendaña led an expedition that actually did find real gold on a Pacific island chain. Word got back to Europe, and unjustified rumors spread that he'd discovered the biblical source of Solomon's gold. The islands got named the Solomon Islands because of that excitement, even though there was never solid proof connecting that gold to Ophir or Tarshish at all. The name still stands today. 2 episodes in, 2 ancient trade destinations, 2 mysteries still technically open after thousands of years. And honestly, the deeper you dig, the more the popular answers get complicated by the actual evidence. If you're into that kind of rabbit hole, share this with someone who'd get way too invested in a disputed Phoenician stone. Next time, we're tackling the Ark of the Covenant, where the evidence actually leads and where it definitely doesn't.